All right, listen up. Now let's look at the second modification of the Michaelis-Menten equation. Now the first modification of the Michaelis-Menten equation was Lineweaver-Burk to make it a linear graph equation. Now the second modification is EADIE equation. So EADIE also modified the Michaelis-Menten equation to have a straight line graph. Now, if you look at this, let's start with the Michaelis-Menten equation. Michaelis-Menten equation says that V is equal to what? V max times what? Substrate concentration all over what? Km plus what? Substrate concentration. Now, what EADIE did was he took the reciprocal, he took the inverse of this, just like we did in Lineweaver-Burk. So he took the inverse. So take the inverse. So if you are taking the inverse, what we'll be having here is what? 1 over what? V equal to, taking the inverse means turn this upside down, right? Km plus S all over V max. The next thing EADIE did, please listen up here. The next thing EADIE did was he multiplied through by V max. So he multiplied through by V max. Multiplied through by V max. So if you are multiplying through by V max, we'll be having V max times 1 over V, right? Equal to V max Km plus S all over V max S, right? The first step in EADIE equation derivation, you write the Michaelis-Menten equation. The next thing he did was, he did what? He took the what? He took the inverse. After taking the inverse, he multiplied through by what? V max. So multiplying through by V max, this is what we are having. Now if I expand this bracket, you agree with me that I'll be having V max over V equal to, now look up, can this V max cancel this V max here? It can, right? Yes, it can cancel. So we'll be having equal to Km plus S all over what? All over S. Is it not? Is it not? But is this same thing as saying V max all over V equal to Km over S plus S over S? Same thing, right? Now we'll be having V max over V equal to Km over S plus this divided by this is what? Now we are almost done, but I want you to understand to this point. The first thing is you write the Michaelis-Menten equation. Next is take the reciprocal, the inverse. So we turn it upside down. That's 1 over this, and we turn this upside down. The next is we multiply through by V max. And after multiplying through by V max, we saw that V max cancelled V max. So if V max is cancelling V max, we are left with this equation here. Now the next thing is, this is still same. This is same thing as writing it as Km over this plus this over this, separating it into partial fractions. I said earlier on that if you have something like A plus B over AB, it's same thing as saying A over AB plus B over AB. That's what we did here. This is same thing as saying this over this plus this over this. Now this is still same, this is same, plus this divided by this is 1. We're almost done. We'll just rearrange this equation and we get our EADIE equation. Right, this says. Now, at this point, remember that we want to have a linear equation, right? A linear graph equation. Now, if you plot this, it will never be linear. To make this linear, first we multiply through by v. So that if v cancels v out here, we'll be left with v max here, right? So the next thing is multiply through by v. So if you multiply through by v, we'll be having v into v max over v equal to v km over substrate concentration plus what will be here? V, right? Because we are multiplying through by v. So if that is the case, this v can cancel this v, right? So we are left with v max equal to v km all over substrate concentration plus v, right? The last step, can I clean this side? The last step is to make v the subject of the formula. That is to rearrange the equation. You rearrange the equation by making this v the subject of the formula. So if we are making v the subject of the formula, we have it that v is equal to what? V is equal to what? V max minus what? V km all over substrate concentration. Is it not? But have I done any crime if I write this like this? V equal to minus V km plus V max. Did I change anything? I just brought this one here, The negative is for this one, right? Now, if I want to, this is the equation. This is EADIE HOFTEE's equation. This equation we have on the board now is EADIE HOFTEE's equation. The first thing we did was we took the reciprocal. Next, we multiplied through by what? V max. Next, after multiplying through by V max, we were rearranging. And the last thing we did was we multiplied through by V, and we made V the subject of the formula. Now, this is the EADIE HOFTEE's equation. But if you want to plot this, remember, the linear graph equation is y equal to what? Mx plus what? Plus c, right? Meaning the y-axis. What will be on the y-axis? V, right? What will be on the x-axis? 1 over what? Substrate concentration, right? You cannot say minus now in the substrate concentration. V over what? Sorry, V over S then Km. This is supposed to be over S Km, right? It cannot be over S again. It's not plus. This is as for all. Now, so the x-axis is supposed to be V over what? Over S. So this is supposed to be xm, right? You are not restricted. You know, A times B, same thing as B times A. So mx or xm. But you cannot plot m as the x-axis. M is a constant. Just one value. In fact, they will ask you to find m. Alright, so this is the x-axis. M represents what? Slope, right? So slope is equal to what? Km, right? Is it Km? Minus Km, right? Minus Km. And C is the intercept, right? So intercept is equal to what? V max. Alright. Which class is that? Now, if you notice, you discover that the slope here is negative, right? We are having a negative slope. Anytime you have a negative slope, what that should tell you is that the graph is a descending graph. Are you following? What does a descending graph mean? If you have something like this as our A, and we have something like this. Which one is a descending graph? A or B? B is a descending graph, right? Now descending graph, we have a negative slope. So our graph here, is it ascending or descending? Descending, right? Because our slope is negative. So EADIE HOFTEE will be giving us something like this. Y-axis, what are we plotting here? On the y-axis, V, right? On the x-axis, what? V over S. Now, the slope here, the slope, which is the negative x-axis. Sorry, the slope here will be negative, right? Our slope is what? Minus what? Minus what? Km, right? Our slope is minus Km. Now, let me ask, what is the intercept on the y-axis? The intercept on the y-axis is Vmax, right? Now, how do we get the intercept on the x-axis? Remember what we used to do? You keep the intercept constant, right? Vmax. And what do you do to this? You invert it, right? So times 1 over. So here will be what? Vmax over what? Over Km, right? The negative, we are not putting here. This is a negative, this is positive x-axis. This negative is just showing that this graph is a descending graph. It's a descending graph. All right. So basically, this is your EADIE HOFTEE plot. This is how it will look like.